In a case that has sent shockwaves through the quiet community of Marion County, Florida, a crime so heinous it defies comprehension, a 15-year-old has been sentenced to 25 years in prison. The brutal attack on a defenseless 91-year-old woman has left the small town of Reddick reeling, grappling with the violation of their sense of security and struggling to understand the motivations behind such a horrific act. Prosecuted as an adult, the young offender received his sentence, a judgment that underscores the severity of the crimes and the complexities of juvenile justice. This is the story of a brutal attack that shattered the peace of a small town, a community's grief and search for healing, the legal complexities of juvenile justice, and the difficult questions surrounding rehabilitation and societal responsibility in the face of such a devastating crime. In the small town of Reddick, Florida, population under 500, a sense of peace and community typically prevailed. Neighbors knew each other, front doors were often left unlocked, and a shared sense of security was the norm. That tranquility was irrevocably shattered on the evening of June 9, 2024, when a 91-year-old woman, a cherished and respected member of the community, became the victim of a brutal and senseless assault within the confines of her own home. This woman, whose name is being withheld to protect her privacy and that of her family, was more than just a resident of Reddick. She was an integral part of its fabric. Known for her kindness, resilience, and unwavering spirit, she was a neighbor, a friend, and a pillar of the community. The fact that such a vulnerable and beloved individual could be targeted in such a violent manner has left the small town reeling in shock and disbelief. The perpetrator of this heinous crime was identified as 15-year-old Jesse Stone. Adding another layer of distress to this already disturbing case is the fact that Stone was known to the victim. He had previously performed yard work for her, a connection that fostered a sense of trust that was so tragically betrayed. This prior association underscores the profound violation at the heart of this crime and deepens the sense of vulnerability felt throughout the community. According to the arrest affidavit filed in Marion County, the victim reported that on the evening of June 8th, she awoke to find a dark shadow hunched over her and moving down the hall toward her bedroom. The individual then jumped on her bed, and as she attempted to defend herself, he repeatedly punched her in the face. The victim stated that she prayed to God for help, but her attacker told her to be quiet before tearing off her underwear and sexually assaulting her, deputies reported. He then fled the house, leaving the victim in the dark with no clear description of her attacker. The details of the attack are deeply disturbing. Stone entered the victim's home through an unlocked door and subjected her to a brutal beating and rape. The sheer brutality of the assault, the extreme vulnerability of the 91-year-old victim, and the violation of her home have combined to create a profound sense of outrage and grief in Reddick. The immediate aftermath of the crime saw the community gripped by a mixture of fear, disbelief, and anger. Residents struggled to reconcile the image of their peaceful town with the horrific reality of what had occurred. The sense of safety that had once defined Reddick was replaced by anxiety and a profound sense of vulnerability. Neighbors began locking their doors, and a palpable sense of unease settled over the small town. The swift investigation and apprehension of the suspect. The Marion County Sheriff's Office immediately launched a full-scale investigation into the brutal attack, recognizing its devastating impact on the Reddick community. Sheriff Billy Woods, acknowledging the town's shock and fear, pledged a swift pursuit of justice, offering a $5,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. His words, while reassuring, did little to ease the profound vulnerability felt by residents. The investigation revealed disturbing details. Hospital records documented the victim's injuries, including bruises and the need for a cervical collar. She recounted the terrifying ordeal, describing how she awoke to a dark shadow before being violently assaulted. Adding a chilling dimension, the victim disclosed that Stone had visited her home just the day before the attack for a seemingly innocent conversation. She had considered him a good boy, and his reappearance after a period of absence hadn't raised any alarm. This detail highlights the calculated and predatory nature of the crime, underscoring the devastating breach of trust. The day after the assault, as law enforcement canvassed the area, Stone himself approached them on his bicycle. This chance encounter allowed investigators to observe Stone's demeanor and obtain his name. Given Stone's prior connection to the victim through yard work, and coupled with the victim's recollection of his recent visit, investigators began to suspect his involvement. Reportedly, Stone's grandmother encouraged him to confess, noting that something spooked him and he fled the victim's residence. This information, combined with the other details, further strengthened investigators' suspicions. Investigators obtained permission from Stone's grandmother, his legal guardian, to collect DNA samples. The results, processed by the Marion County Sheriff's Office's in-house crime lab, provided a conclusive match to DNA recovered from the victim, definitively linking Stone to the crime and identifying him as the prime suspect. This in-house lab proved invaluable, expediting the investigation. Just 1 week after the horrific assault, Jesse Stone was taken into custody. He was arrested at his high school and, during questioning, confessed to entering the victim's home, initially claiming he only intended to view pornography on her iPad, but then admitting to the sexual assault. While the arrest brought some relief, it was quickly overshadowed by renewed shock and disbelief as the community learned the perpetrator's age and his prior relationship with the victim. The fact that Stone, so young, had previously done yard work for the elderly woman, a connection built on trust, made the crime even more disturbing and deepened the sense of betrayal. Stone, 14 at the time of the crime, faced serious felony charges of burglary and sexual battery. His age presented complex legal challenges, forcing the court to balance the need for justice with the potential for rehabilitation. He initially denied the allegations, but later pleaded guilty. Following the plea, footage of an emotional exchange with his grandmother, his legal guardian, was released. In court, his grandmother revealed the difficult circumstances of his upbringing. His mother had abandoned him when he was 5, and while he was generally well-behaved under her care, she had observed a growing anger within him. She also disclosed his consumption of pornography, including content involving elderly individuals, a detail later confirmed by prosecutors. Stone's attorney argued for leniency, citing his troubled childhood, the absence of parental involvement, his young age, and the potential for rehabilitation. He emphasized Stone's lack of prior criminal history and the fact that his brain was still developing. He suggested that specialized psychological and sex offender treatment within the juvenile justice system would be more effective than a lengthy prison sentence. While acknowledging the severity of the crime, the attorney urged the court to show mercy, stressing that this was Stone's first offense. The prosecution, however, argued for a significant prison term, emphasizing the brutality of the crime, the victim's vulnerability, and the need to protect the community. They argued that justice required a punishment that reflected the severity of Stone's actions, regardless of his age. After careful consideration, the judge sentenced Stone to 25 years in prison on February 7, 2025.
All right, Mr. Stone, this is unfortunate for you, for the victim, for both of your families. I'm going to start with count 2. It's a burglary of a dwelling with a battery, which is punishable by up to life in prison. You're adjudicated guilty and sentenced to 25 years in the Department of Corrections. That's going to be followed by 30 years of sex offender probation. You're going to have to follow the sex offender probation conditions set forth in 948.30, which includes sex offender treatment, a variety of other things, including polygraphs, no use of the internet without a risk assessment, no contact with children under the age of 18. I don't know that that's going to be applicable in this case, but I assume all those are still going to apply.
In addition to the prison term, Stone received 30 years of sex offender probation and mandatory registration as a sex offender upon his release. He has 30 days to appeal the ruling. Despite the defense's arguments for leniency and rehabilitation within the juvenile system, The judge decided to try and sentence Stone as an adult. Stone showed little visible reaction during the sentencing. This case raises profound and troubling questions about juvenile crime, the potential for rehabilitation, and the responsibility of society to protect its most vulnerable members. It highlights the urgent need for effective interventions and support systems for at-risk youth, programs that can address the root causes of troubled behavior and offer young people a chance to turn their lives around. This case serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of juvenile justice and the difficult decisions facing the courts. This story is far from over. The questions it raises will continue to resonate for years to come. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you.